Hello, everyone. Welcome. Sorry, I'm 2 minutes late getting on. I was getting set up. I had to go on some unexpected travels today, so I hope it's not too echoey in here. I'm in some non-typical room that I'm in, not in my normal office setup. But thanks everybody for jumping on here. Can you all hear me okay, or does this sound terrible? Because I might switch it to my AirPods if it sounds bad. Let me know in the comments here. All right. All right. Sounds like you hear me. Cool. All right. I'm up in Atlanta, all right, just outside of Atlanta. So had to take a little last minute trip. So that's why I have the fake background behind me and not the normal one. Cool. Well, thanks so much for joining me. Also, since I'm traveling, I don't have my iPad that I normally write on and make it fun and interactive, but I do have my slides, and we're gonna be looking at some different things on the computer here. So yeah. Oh, and also, yeah, if you haven't seen me with this, I started this mustache as a joke for my wife about 10 days ago, and I just kind of left it. This is literally a full 10 days of mustache growth. That's how sad it is. I'm a 37-year-old man. That's all I got. So, anyways, enjoy it while it lasts. But thank you all for being here. We're not here to talk about the mustache, though. We're here to talk about some mapping. So if you are ready, yes, she did laugh at first, and then she's like, you know what, maybe just try it. So I asked my kids what they thought of it, and the first one went, I don't see anything, which I think is a bigger diss than he was intending. And then the other one was like, yeah, I don't like it. So that's how that's going so far. All right, here we go. I'm gonna pull up some. Share my screen. I'm gonna share my slides. Okay. Can you guys see this? We're gonna be doing the slides this way today, not my normal. All right. So we called today's training mapping for money. I don't want it to be, sometimes I don't want it to sound like get rich quick. I'm always hesitant to make things sound like get money now, right? There's no get rich quick scheme. But I know many of you are here to start businesses or have your own businesses, and you're interested in mapping. And if you didn't have the possibility of making money, then you wouldn't really be interested, because that's kind of one of the main points of business. So, not here how to tell you to get rich quick, but I am here to tell you how you can make money with drones in the most realistic way that I know possible from my experience. So if you aren't familiar with me, I'm going to give you a little background on me real quick. So my name is David Young. If I don't know you or haven't met you, nice to meet you. I'm the founder of a company called Drone Launch Academy. Started back in 2016. So almost or actually 9 years in business. I was into drones about a year before that. Background is in aviation. From 2007 is when I got my private pilot certificate. Switched it up, did accounting stuff for a little while, came back to drones in 2015. But since we started Drone Launch Academy, we've had over 55,000 students now take some of our courses. And specifically on drone mapping courses, which is a little more niche, we've had 1,500 students trained. Because we offer all sorts of courses, from Part 107 test prep to cinematography, roof inspections, real estate media, all sorts of things. I got my advanced ground instructor certificate and obviously my remote pilot certificate to be a pilot. Now, something new that happened lately that I thought was pretty interesting. If I zoom in, can you guys see? Oh, yeah, you guys see this. All right. You guys check this out. So Max Boosfeld is the CEO of Wingtra, and he just gave me this really nice shout out 2 days ago. He wrote, I believe drone mapping has some strong voices on LinkedIn and YouTube. And he threw me up here. He said, top drone mapping voices, put me up with 6 other people, which I felt that was a bit undeserved, but I thought it was very thoughtful of him and very nice. So apparently, Max thinks I know a little bit about mapping, and I'm happy to share what I do have, knowledge I do have with you. I did work with Wingtra a little bit, testing out some of their platforms and some of their survey gear and their software workflows and things. So I got to do that, and that was pretty cool. So that's a little bit about me. One of the main things we do, though, is I go out and I try to find instructors that are better than me. So people who know really, really good things, like really in-depth knowledge about these topics, to come and teach in the actual courses that we have. People who are doing it day in and day out. I'm good at putting courses together, but I also like doing it with people. All right, so that's about me. Yeah, and I'm your guy today. So sometimes I bring Root on or someone else, but it's just going to be us. All right. So quick agenda for today. Do a quick recap. What is drone mapping and where is it used? Some people are not as familiar with drone mapping, photogrammetry, things like that. So let me know in the chat if you already know what drone mapping is, or if you're here kind of like trying to figure it out. Like if you know photogrammetry, drone mapping, you're familiar. Give me like a 1 to 5. 5 being like you're an expert, and 1 being like you literally have no idea what I'm talking about. Throw that in the chat so I know kind of where you're at with your knowledge level. And I want to know because about a month ago or 2 months ago, we did, okay, oh, good. All right. We did like an advanced one where I had, basically a civil engineer surveyor guy on here talking about really in-depth stuff with drones. And as we were talking, people in the chat were just like, I am so lost. They were clueless. So that maybe was a little bit on us and how we communicated sort of the level of the presentation. A lot of people were coming in as total beginners. And we were trying to speak to people who already knew mapping and they were looking to do like survey grade, really professional stuff. So if you're in the like 1 to 3 range, you will get something out of tonight. If you're like a 4 to 5 range, you're probably going to be like, this is old news, but you're welcome to stick around, obviously. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. This is going to be on the beginner side. So I'm going to talk about photogrammetry, the basics, the walkthrough, workflow, things like that. All right. We're talking about where to find some work as well. Okay. I'm going to talk about what the future growth looks like. I've actually looked into this a lot more recently, into different trends, reports, newer reports, different data sources, different anecdotal examples. So I have some of those that I can share with you. Then we're going to go over our 4-step process called from flight to finished map. I call this the PAPA process now. Oh, Jay Jenkins, you're in Atlanta. I'm over here in Gainesville, Georgia, just north of Atlanta right now, visiting a friend. All right. And then we're going to go through sort of what I would consider 3 most lucrative, as in like your best chance at making money and, and making more money, and what areas you could get into along the way with that. And then we do have a course called Drone Mapping and Modeling Fundamentals. It is taught by me, and it's taught by Root Patel. This course has been around for a pretty good amount of time, and a lot of people have enjoyed it. So usually when I do a webinar on mapping, I give an offer at the end for like, hey, if you want to buy this mapping course, go for it. We always give some special deals and bundles. I think we do that about twice a year. So if you've been waiting on that, this is going to be it. But otherwise, if you're here just learning about mapping, no problem. Stick around. We'll do some Q&A, and yeah, we'll call it a night. All right. So that's our plans. Let's keep going. Okay. I might have already sort of talked about this, but you are in the right place. See, like I normally have an iPad where like right around this stuff, so I'm just going to have to talk around it. But you're in the right place if you want to use a drone to create some digital representation of what is on the earth, and either do that for your employer. Maybe you're a survey team member, crew member. Maybe you do field work. Maybe you are a civil engineer, or maybe you're just a drone pilot, and you maybe were in the real estate game for a little bit. And you're like, I don't really like working with real estate agents. I want to do something else, but I still like using drones. I've seen a lot of that. I've seen that kind of go both ways. So if you want to use a drone to do things in construction, surveying, engineering, mining, oil and gas, any type of collecting data with the drones, you're in the right spot. Unless you are already a super expert, then you're going to be bored, but we'll do other more advanced trainings later. Okay. All right. And by the way, I think Audrey's in the chat tonight, but otherwise it's just me. Sometimes I got Root on here and I can also answer questions, but I will try to stop from time to time and pull questions up, but I'll save a ton of time at the end for all the questions that you have. So if I'm not answering them in the chat, I apologize in advance. I'm going to try to like look at the slides so we can keep going. All right, so drone mapping, what is it? And I'm going to explain this in a basic level because a lot of you were in the 1s and 2s range, okay? So there is something that has actually been around for a very long time. It's called photogrammetry. And what photogrammetry is, it is essentially taking images, different still images, and it is putting them together, stitching them together, and doing some math to create either a photograph or a digital representation of what is on the ground. And typically, one of the main things you're going to get from that is something called an orthomosaic image. And it says ortho. So the definition of ortho means sort of like straight up and down. So if you ever thought orthodontist, it's because they're straightening your teeth. I actually didn't know that until I started researching more about sort of the origin of these words. So ortho, straight up and down. Mosaic is a collection of different things put together. So it is a collection of images that are put together that all have a straight top-down view, so a nadir view. So if you can think about, let's say you were I don't know, parachuting above a building, you're looking straight down. You might see the top of the roof of the building below you, but in your peripheral vision, if you look off to the side, you're going to see the side of that building because your angle of vision is kind of like this. But when an image is ortho-rectified, it means everything is corrected to where it appears perfectly straight up and down as if you were directly over it. And this is important because it allows you to do things like make measurements and have a consistent view across an entire area, where a single image wouldn't do that, right? If you flew up really high and took a single image right here, it would have this field of view like this and wouldn't have the same sort of straight down view. So that's why we do orthomosaic imagery, not to mention that it's a lot more high resolution. So photogrammetry has been around for a long time. They used to do it in airplanes. They used to have these giant big cameras that they calibrated inside of aircraft. They actually still do it in aircraft for like really, really large scale photogrammetry. But it got really popular over the last 5 to 10 years with drones, because now drones are much more affordable. They've got cameras on them, and some of the software sort of already existed to do photogrammetry. It's just now you have images from a drone instead of images from an aircraft. And what happens is your drone, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but your drone, when it takes a picture, even if you're not doing it for mapping, it has GPS data on it, even your cell phone. So like if you go take a picture with your cell phone, and then if you got an iPhone, you can go in there and you can search like Atlanta, Georgia, and it'll pull up all the pictures that you took in Atlanta, Georgia. If you're ever wondering why that is, because anytime you take a picture with something that has GPS inside of it, it will often stamp that metadata or those coordinates into that image in the coordinate data, or in the metadata, the coordinates. So that's how it does that. So your drone is doing the same thing. It's got a GPS in there. That's how it flies around. So when you take a picture, it says, hey, I was at this latitude and longitude in this elevation from the best I can tell in the GPS in my drone. So you're going to take all these images and they need to overlap. So one image here, again, I don't have a way to draw it, so I'm going to do it with my hands. One image here, and the next image like here. You want them to overlap in the next image here. And when they're overlapping, you're going to get the same features in many of the images. And you're eventually going to load that into some software. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but it matches all this stuff up. It does some math, and it recreates either like a 2D flat model or a 3D model or a point cloud of what was on the ground based on all those images. And I'm going to dive into that more in a minute. But you're creating a digital representation of something physical on Earth, used from anything from surveying to inspection work. And I'm telling you, it is growing way faster in the last 2 to 3 years than I have ever seen it. Okay, so that's drone mapping. Does that make sense? In a nutshell, we're going to dive deep and we'll show you examples and all that stuff. Okay. All right. Your next question. I think I've seen this in the chat. Wow, Dave, that sounds cool, but semi-useless if I don't know what it's for. What are we using drone mapping for? All right. Example number 1. You can do something called takeoff calculations. So if you're not, let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit on this for you. And by the way, I know you guys are writing questions in, but again, I'll try to answer them as I get to it. This is a screenshot from a software called Propeller. And what this is doing is, this is a bit more of an advanced thing, but you can take a drone to get the contours of the ground with really precise coordinates, and then you can load in other information into software. So this is Propeller. It's kind of like a CAD program, if you're familiar with any type of construction design. And it says, hey, here's where the dirt needs to be in order for us to have the right retention ponds and to pave roads and things like that. And then it compares that to where the actual ground and the dirt is now. And then it shows you where you need to take dirt from and where you need to move dirt to. So for instance, you see my mouse on here? Oh, you can. All right. So you'll see this red right here says cut. So if I was a tractor, I would come over here and take a big scoop out of here. And then this dark blue says fill. And I'm going to come over here and dump the dirt there. And you're going to do that until it is the exact surface that you want. And these takeoff calculations typically take the net of all of that dirt volume and figure out if we need to buy dirt and bring it in for the project, or if we'll have excess dirt that we can move on to another project, right? So that's one example of a project that you would use a drone for. All right, that's example number one. Example number two. Example number two. So this was, I'm going to give credit to Pix4D for this. I think this was one of their case study examples. So this prison, they did an orthomosaic image. You can look and see everything is like straight up and down. You can see the size of these buildings a little bit, which I think is interesting. But typically everything's straight up and down. They wanted to make emergency management plans. It does look like it's under construction too, but their case study said they were trying to make emergency procedure plans. So, hey, if somebody breaks out of the prison, who are we going to staff where and who's doing what? Or when we do shift changes, how does that work? And they used it for sort of their planning and operations because it's kind of a big area. It'd be hard to get it in one image. Sometimes people try to fly up and take from the corner. That's not really going to get you what you need. So they use this for planning purposes. I thought that was cool. Another example. I just need to scroll. I guess I'll just scroll. Construction disputes. So construction disputes, inventory theft, things like this happens all the time. They get into arguments. I even interviewed a guy one time on the Drone 1K podcast that we have, and he was like a videographer. He was just like videoing a cool crane doing some stuff. It was like a promo project for a construction site. And they called him later and they're like, hey, do you have that footage? Because we think in the footage, you got some video of how much roofing material, the shingles or some other material had been delivered. And we're in a dispute right now about how much they actually gave us. Sure enough, in his little video where he was panning, showing the crane, he had like documentation of how much roofing material was there. And they were able to win some settlement or some dispute over that. In this instance, you're going to do similar things to that takeoff calculation that I talked about before, but you're essentially getting a little 3D model of a stockpile and you're measuring the volume. And then you can measure the change in volume from one time period to the next. You can take the difference and you can see, hey, that's how much dirt has been taken away from this area. So when an earthworks company is trying to bill you for certain truckloads, you can actually use that to verify what they say that they're charging. So there's that, but there's also just documentation of, I used to have another one here, but back on the stockpile or the construction disputes, there was another one where they were just taking regular orthomosaic images. So all those kind of straight down like views are just like, it looks like a flat map, like this. This is an ortho. They had claimed that somebody had done some, like laid some manhole structure wrong, but they had flown orthos, gotten those flat down or top down view maps like weekly, and they were able to see the progress that they had done, and they had documented each layer. So they had documentation to go back and say, hey, no, actually we did this to code and everything was right. So they ended up winning that and not having to cough up a bunch of rework money. So this is very important. And it happens a lot. So this is one of the reasons that people do this. The next one is building inspection. So this is more on the 3D modeling side of things. But this is a 3D model where it's of a full building, and you can go in there and you can mark, right, here's a cracked shingle. This is a historic building. So they'll use it to like do a cracked shingle, or they can do it to sort of reconstruct different areas because they can take this 3D model and they can turn that into CAD drawings and try to recreate some of the pieces of the building that they need to if they want to do like historic preservation. They also use this a lot for like VR stuff or like video game renderings. So I know like there's a golf game and they want to put the golf courses in there. So they need the actual topography of the golf course to like load into virtual reality. So you can get 3D models of that. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. So this is another example of how drones are used with photogrammetry. All right, let's look at growth opportunities. This report is as of September 2025. I just pulled it. This is the United States drone services market. Now, I will say, you can look for these reports. You can get numbers that are all over the place. They're all pretty high. I would say this is one of the higher ones I've seen, but I haven't seen many that are lower than like 20-something% year over year growth. So this is 44% every single year. This graph actually is not to scale. If that's 2 billion, there's no way that's 40 billion. Really, this 44% year over year would look like an exponential curve like that. So they're saying, hey, the United States drone services market as a whole is going to grow very, very quickly. And then if you drilled in and looked at which service markets were growing the fastest, they're showing that mapping and surveying is currently the biggest, and it is projected to continue to be the biggest. Then if you look at the next one, it says data acquisition and analytics, which is pretty similar to mapping and surveying to me. And then down here, maybe in fourth place, let's say, is modeling, which I believe they're meaning 3D modeling. So all of the things that you're going to do with photogrammetry are like the top of the growth, right? That's like the tip of the spear in the drone market. All right. Before I dive into the 4-step process, I'm going to answer a few questions. So then we got a few in there. Okay. So if you got a question, ask it again now. I'm going to grab 4 or 5. We'll answer those and we'll kind of keep going. All right. Here's one. What programs are the best for older drones? I'm getting lost in the presentation. Like software. And I'll talk about software here in a minute. So if that's what you're talking about. But older drones kind of just depends. I'm going to walk through all the different types of flight automation software you can use. All right. Again, another software question. I'll get to software in a minute. That is one of my steps. Yeah, this is a big bummer. I mean, I would say used DJI drones are still, you can still fly them. They just probably won't sell any new DJI drones into North America. I would assume at some point, my prayer is that somebody comes up with an affordable, good drone, but I do not know how long that will take. All I know is that I'm trying to keep my Matrice 4 and my Air 2S in as good of condition as possible so that they don't break. A lot of apps. So what apps would us as a pilot and command need to use in our arsenal? This is a good question. I'll give you a few real quick. One is Flight Radar 24. I use that one pretty often. That shows where other aircraft are in the area. So if you're flying, doing a mapping mission, especially because the drone's just going back and forth, and one of your jobs is to make sure nothing's going to hit it, since it's in autonomous mode most of the time, that shows you where other, like, one time I was flying pretty close to a hospital. It was not controlled airspace, but the helicopter was still taking off and landing pretty frequently. So it was coming right at me one time, and I was flying a wing drone, so it was a fixed wing drone, so I had to kind of bring that down. So Flight Radar 24. Another one is UAV Forecast. Sorry, I would normally write these down, but I don't have a pen. That one will tell you the winds at different altitudes. And then for getting airspace authorization, I really like an app called Autopilot, but it's PYLOT. That's what I normally use. So I'll talk about a few more as we go, but those are some like non-photogrammetry related apps that would be good. All right. Let's see. This is a good question. I'll tell you this. It's already been completely filmed. I went up to Canada again with Ted and finished the filming, and it is currently with the editors being edited. So it depends on how fast they can get through it. I'll tell you this, though. It is a lot. It's the longest of the 5 courses by a pretty large margin. And if you don't know what we're talking about, we have an advanced drone mapping and modeling program, typically for like people in the survey and civil engineering and inspection world that are doing that full time. And we have a advanced 3D modeling course that we're coming out with. Okay. Whoa. Yeah, we'll talk through some like industries, and I can give you some examples of how to find clients. I can give you a couple tips that we teach in our like Drone to 1K course for that. But they're pretty just normal business methods, and I'll give you some pointers on that. All right. By the way, this is all recorded. This is YouTube Live, so you can just come back here and listen to this again if you want, by the way, if you don't catch those drones. And it was Autopilot with a Y, PYLOT. What'd I say? UAV Forecast and Flight Radar 24. Cool. Gosh, one more. I'll answer this one. If you want to process on your local machine, yes, but there's a lot of cloud processing software that you don't need to use your machine for. Okay, now we're moving on. I will get questions later, I promise. Well, let's talk about the 4-step process. PAPA, P-A-P-A. Number 1 is plan. Plan. I can't write anything on here, so it's pointless for me to continue to share that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my computer screen, and we'll talk about the planning process. And I will do that by going to our pre-flight planning. I'm just going to share this screen over here. Bear with me. Share screen. Okay. Here's that drone, the mapping fundamentals course that I've talked about. So in our pre-flight planning, we're going to go here. So checking, normal stuff, checking weather, checking airspace, risk assessments. There's one where we go and we look at, let's see here. Typically, I like to do like Google, honestly, you can just do Google satellite view. Oh, this is walking through. Yeah, this is me and Root talking. It's a good look, Root. Okay. Looking at the drone and checking their checklist. Typically, what I like to do is I like to go into Google Earth Pro. I don't know if I want to open that up on here because that's going to bog my, even if you just do like Google Maps, hold on. You could even do like something like here, I'll share this down, like a Google Maps satellite view. So let's say I was going to go to Tampa, I'm just going to pick a random spot, find my spot in Tampa. There's a building right here. This is like a food hall type place. It's pretty good about like 3D views now a lot of times. So you can, well, I don't know if it's going to do it in Tampa, but in many large metropolitan areas, you can do 3D views, street views, stuff like that. But if someone says, hey, we need to get a building inspection of this, here's what I'm looking for. I'm going to go, okay, I got water here. I know that this is a big city. There's probably an airport, so I'll check my airspace here in a second. Let me see if I'll pull that up. Let's do an example together. Autopilot, P-Y-L-O-T. I don't know if I'm logged in on my computer with Autopilot, maybe. I know I'm on my phone. All right, so let's say we wanted to do this sort of area here. I'm looking, okay, I got water. I'm going to go power lines, trees, cell towers. Those are the main things I'm worried about because that's what my drone can crash into. And then large possibilities of people. So I'm like, okay, food hall, probably busy. Am I going to be flying over people continuously? If so, do I have the right waivers and things that I need for that or the right equipment? I can look, doesn't look like there's tons of people from here. At least they're indoors. So I'm like, all right, cool. Let's see here. See if I can launch. I really want to show you guys inside of Autopilot. It might be helpful for you to see it. Yeah, you guys can see all this stuff. Sorry, my internet is also pretty slow here, so hopefully this works. But if not, you guys can just go to Autopilot, A-U-T-O-P-Y-L-O-T. Oh, it's going to make me sign in. Maybe it'll go really fast. Let's see. All right. So let's get an address for here. ArmatureWorks. Address, copy that address. We're going to go over to, this is Autopilot. You guys see this? Sweet. All right. I'm going to punch it in here. Boom. This is our spot we were going. All right. Looks like we're just on the edge of the Tampa International Airspace. So we know we can fly up to 200 feet. Unless we go over here, actually, we're pretty close to the 100-foot area. You can like see how far you're gonna fly. So I know I can go about there and still get up to 200 feet. All my stuff is in here already. If I just clicked continue and then continue again, it would give me automatic authorization right here. But I know if I was out here, or maybe like out here, maybe those was doing the school, I wouldn't have to get any authorization because I would be outside of these areas. So that's kind of a Part 107 thing that you would need to know. So that would include that as a part of my flight planning system. Let's see what else we normally do for flight planning. Oh, can you guys hear me okay? All right, cool. By the way, Autopilot is free for all the land stuff. You can get insurance through there and you can get some other things that are helpful, or like weather, but I just have the free version. So in the planning phase, if you're doing fundamentals, there's a lot of other things. If you're doing more advanced stuff that would go into the planning phase, like ground control points, laying those out, shooting those, collecting those, setting up things like RTK corrections, or having a base station receiver going for like a lot of GPS correction stuff. That gets more into the advanced things. But if you're in like the 1 to 3 range, like we were talking about before, I wouldn't even worry about that. Right now, let's worry about making just how do you make a nice looking map that is accurate within itself. And so that simplifies the planning phase a little bit for you. Now, creating your map, you want to know where the map is going to be. Again, sometimes surveyor, construction person, they might give you something called like a KMZ or a KML file. And what that is basically a couple points that will create like a polygon on a map for you. And it'll show you, hey, here's where you should be, here's where the places that you should be flying. I don't know if I have Google Earth Pro. Oh, let's see. I'll just try it. I think I have it on here. I just don't want to slow my computer way down because my internet is a little bit weak. And by the way, I didn't get punched in the face, in case somebody's curious. Our washing machine leaked a little bit the other day. My wife borrowed a shop vac, and then as I was bending down to pick up my 2-year-old daughter, she was bringing open the shop vac and hit me right in the eye with the plastic piece that attaches to it, and then knocked me. So then I walked back in the room, like, I don't know, I went to work. I came back hours later, and she's like, "What happened to your face? What happened to your eye?" I'm like, "You hit me in the face with the vacuum cleaner." She's like, "Oh, my bad." Anyways, just to explain that, so it's not too weird. All right, let's see if I can get Google Earth Pro open here because I wanted to show you this. Do I have? Okay, I might have. All right, let me show you this. So, because I want to talk to you about KMZ files and KML files, because this, if you end up working with surveyors or engineers or anybody like that who's going to use ground control, they are probably going to show you this. All right, can you guys see Google Earth Pro on my screen? Yes. All right. So they'll give you a KML or KMZ file, and you can just drag it in here, and it will come usually over on these temporary places. I don't know if these are actual KMZ files. I think these are jobs maybe that I did with Root, but I'm just going to double click on one and let's see where this goes. Okay. So double click. Oh yeah. Where is that? Oh, okay. So when I was doing some Wingtra testing, a friend of mine does large area mapping, and he was like, "Hey," because I needed some sample project to like test out their workflows, and I was testing out some of the data collection stuff that they had, and so they were going to use it on this. And I was like, "Hey, where is it?" And the problem is, like, if you're going to a friend's house, you can just say, "Hey, here's my address," and you can punch that into Google Maps, and it takes you there. But if you're just like, "Hey, there's this exact section of this field," right? Like, you don't know where the property lines are, you don't know where the boundaries are. It can get pretty like weird trying to figure out where someone's talking about. So a lot of times they just give these KMZ or KML files, and when you drop it into Google Earth, it will create these points, right? It creates these points on the ground, and it will draw lines. So now I can pretty clearly see, oh, this is the area that he needs to be mapped. And I could find some coordinates of this place. The coordinates you can see on the bottom, right? The lat long is like 27.3, negative 80.5, right? But I could find this place, and then when I'm going to go set up my flight plan, I can make sure to capture all this. And I actually did this. I went into the Wingtra flight plan. They have their own flight planning tool, and I took the same KMZ file that he gave me, which again is just a file that shows these boundaries, and I loaded it into the file, and it will help me create that flight plan in the exact place. But a lot of times you can just kind of manually recreate it. So this is what you would look for in Google Earth. And then I would also go in here, and I'm looking for power lines. You can usually do, how do I get, sorry, oh, there we go. Like more of a 3D view. You can kind of come down here. You can like look for power lines, and you can get some different like 3D layers in here. And the nice thing about Google Earth Pro, we teach some of this stuff in the fundamentals course, is you can overlay like different types of geospatial data in here. So there's like a file you can get that shows all of the cell towers, or at least most of the cell towers in the United States, and it'll show them on the map with some information about how high they are. But this all looks pretty just like flat pasture. It's Florida, okay? So this is something I would use to look at. And then if you're using ground control points, typically surveyors would give you like a control file, which would show where all the ground control points would be. Again, that's kind of beyond the scope of today's discussion, but then you could see where those points are, and you want to make sure you capture all those points in your map that you're going to create with the drone. Basically, get them in the pictures that you're about to take, right? So this is all part of the planning phase, and that's what Google Earth Pro looks like. Even people at the Nate Howard works for a billion dollar, like multi-billion dollar company, and I was like, so what's your workflow? And I'm thinking they're going to have some really complicated, expensive software. He's like, yeah, you should just open up Google Earth Pro first and just start looking around. I was like, oh, that's literally what everybody else does. So this is just where people start because it's a nice geospatial tool that anybody can use. Okay. All right. So that is Google Earth Pro. The next phase, once you know where you're is creating your flight plan. All right. So actually building out that. So the next one, sorry, we have plan. So we finished planning. A is now acquire. We want to go acquire the images for that flight because that's what you need. Those images, you need all those collections of images, hundreds, sometimes thousands of images that are going to go into creating this map and model. And so what I like to do, again, you can use Drone Deploy, Pix4D Capture, UGCS. That one's like a really more expensive one. That's like more of a pro version if you're doing like really unique things. Like Wingtra's a pretty expensive enterprise drone. They have their sort of own stuff that they've built out. But what I like the best is something called DroneLink. And let me show you that. You do have to pay if you're using it like educational or recreational. It's like a one-time fee. If you're using it commercially, I believe it is a subscription. So, but it's worth getting if you have a drone that's only compatible with DroneLink. So if you have, let's say, a Matrice 4, you can use that with Drone Deploy or any of these other ones. But if you're using something like a Mini 3, a Mini 2, a Mini 3, a Mini 4 Pro, some of those drones, like these other companies, they don't support that. But DroneLink still builds out connections to actually support those things. All right. So let me show you real quick. Present, share screen, DroneLink. All right. So this is my DroneLink account. We got some stuff that I've done here. What was I doing down here? Oh, yeah, that was another student actually sent me his data, and I was trying to see if I could replicate it. All right, so here's what we did for one of our advanced mapping courses. This is in Beaufort, North Carolina, where Chris Breedlove lives. And actually, this is a project that we did. We put it in one of the advanced mapping courses because we put ground control points all around here. So if I click this, okay, here is my flight plan. So Chris said, hey, there's this place, Freedom Park. Here's what we're going to do. And we created this. So if you click in here, we can see the different components of our map. So I did this with an Air 2S, which is, I don't know, $1,000 drone with a 1-inch sensor. It's a nice drone. I picked my front overlap, my side overlap, and my altitude. And what this is going to do is it's going to take those parameters and it's going to know how close my drone needs to fly in these lines in order to achieve the percentage overlap in the images, because it knows about the focal length of the camera and all these other things. They have that kind of built in and calibrated. And what you're looking for here is something called ground sample distance. Again, I teach about this over here. If we go to GSD, it's in here, I promise you. I was going to try to show you an image from it. Overlap settings. Oh, here we go. Map accuracy. What is GSD? So all right, so I'm explaining here that in your image, it's basically broken down into pixels, and your map can never be more accurate than, see, I'm highlighting right there. Your map can never be more accurate than the size of the pixel on the ground. I think this is a better version. Oh, come on. Where was that little screenshot? There we go. So hold on. There we go. Okay. So 1 pixel on the ground. So it says, if I were to zoom into 1 pixel, how much ground distance does that cover? Your accuracy in your map is never going to be more, they're never going to be better than the distance of 2 of those pixels. So if one of those pixels on the ground represents 1 inch of space, then you're never going to be able to be more accurate than 2 inches. Because, for instance, I could be measuring from if I'm clicking here, the computer can only click on the pixel. So I don't know if I'm over here in the pixel or over here. So I have about a tolerance of 2 pixels back and forth. So that's typically what determines your ground sampling distance. So if someone says to you, hey, I'm trying to measure from this point to this point, how accurate would this map be? and you should be able to tell them, hey, the GSD, ground sampling distance, so that shows you the pixels. So this is 1/2 inch per pixel. So I can say, hey, this map, according to what I have here, is going to be accurate within plus or minus an inch. That's horizontally. Now, again, there's going to be some things in there that's, there's some errors that can be introduced by where you're clicking on, like if you're trying to click a measurement from one point on the map to the other, and did you click in the right place? That's, that's a different thing to consider. But as far as the map accuracy goes, that's what we can count on, right? So that's what ground sampling distance is. And as you get closer to the ground, each of those pixels represents a smaller and smaller area, which means you get more and more accurate. So that's what you kind of have to balance, is like, how accurate, how detailed do I need this map to be? And that would require you to fly lower. But then once you fly lower, like, look, you'll see here, it's going to say 14. Let's see. No, hold on. I meant to do. Oh, wait, hold on. Mission estimate. Okay. So if you look here, it's like this, it says it's going to take 12 minutes. I'm going to collect 256 photos, 12 minutes time. But let's say it's like, oh no, I need a lot more accuracy. I can't settle for that. Let's go back to simple. I can't settle for 0.5. I got to get better. So let's say we're going to go down. We're going to fly this thing. It's 50 feet off the deck, real low. That's GSD is going to go down to 0.17. So now I know I've got like 0.35 inches of accuracy. But now look how many lines I have, tons. I've got to fly because I'm so close to the ground. The camera is only going to get a little bit in view. So I've got to get all these overlapping images. So now I have to fly a ton. And if we look at our mission estimate now, it was like, what, 12 minutes before? Now it's going to be an hour and 20 minutes with 2,000 photographs. So it gets really huge really quickly as you try to get more and more accurate. So you have to balance, what am I doing with this? If someone says, can you count the number of bases that we still have out there? I don't need 0.35 inch accurate, of GSD to get that. I probably just need to see within 6 inches or a foot, So I'll be like, all right, cool. I'm going to fly. That's at 400 feet because that's as high as I can go, and see what that looks like. Cool. That's still 3 inches, well, 1.36, so 2.7-ish of accuracy, 2.7 inches. And that mission is going to take me 6 minutes and 40 photos, right? So you got to figure out what it is that you need. If someone says, hey, I need you to measure how thick the cracks in the pavement are, then yeah, you're going to need some really, really tight parameters. That's something that people do, is like, hey, we want to see how any cracks over an inch wide in a runway. So you're like, oh, now I need like a lot of accuracy. So that kind of impacts what that is, right? So that's part of your flight planning. Typically, you're going to always have overlap of 75 to 80%. If you're doing 3D modeling, a lot of times they go more with like 80% if you need like sides of buildings and you're getting corners and things like that. But if you're just doing regular photogrammetry, 70 and 70, or between 70 and 80, side lap and overlap is good. There's some other exceptions to that we don't really need to get into, but in general, that's what you want. Okay. All right. So that is plan, acquire. So yeah, essentially once you set this up, you get out there, you literally turn the drone on, you connect it to this, and then there's a button over here that just says go. You hit go, and then you just watch it do its thing. And I'll answer this question because this is a good question. Yes, well, if your battery dies mid-mission, your aircraft falls out of the sky. But when your battery gets low, it will return to home. You turn it off, new battery in, you hit go, it will go right back to where it left off, and it will continue with the mission. Most photogrammetry software does that. Okay. All right. Any other questions real quick while I'm running through this? Go over KMZ versus KML. I think one of them's like, you can convert them back and forth. I think one of them's like a Google markup language, and one of them might be a different one. I got to be honest, I'd have to refresh my own memory. One of them might be like the points. One of them might be like the polygon lines, unless you were telling someone else to do that. Yeah, there's some things you can do to convert KMZ to KML back and forth. All right, let's see. Let me look at some other questions here. Any weekend warrior? All right, yeah, we're going to get into that. Sorry, I'll speed it up. Okay, so that's plan, acquire. We've acquired. Processing, I'll keep it pretty simple. There's not at this stage of what you're doing, there's not a ton to the processing. You can process it on your own computer. I'd say that's a little bit more advanced. For most people, they're going to be processing in some cloud-based processing software, and those are mostly all the same. And I'm just going to show you what that looks like. I'll just throw the course back up here. So if we go to pre-flight planning, flying your data, collecting. So we collected our data, processing your data. Okay. So in this one, we use Maps Made Easy as an overview just because it's cheap and simple. But you're literally going to take your images and you are going to import them into whatever software. This is like the same thing when you're using Pix4D Cloud, or you're using Drone Deploy. Drone Deploy is another cloud-based one. Propeller does it. Like even enterprise ones, a lot of them are like cloud-based because it's just easy for companies. Literally going to select your files. You're going to upload them. You're going to tell them how much detail you want, what kind of outputs you want on it. I'm just going to fast forward through this. Zip, zip, zip. It'll tell you how much it is based on how much data it's processing. It loads them up, and it says, cool, here's a little report, and we'll tell you when it's done. And then you get a post-processing report. It says, hey, your stuff was done. Here were the results. Here's all the overlapping points we found in the image. Here's the quality that we got. Here's some of the accuracy that you can rely on. It gives you some data and information about that. And we do some quality checks and some other things like that. And then we do some georeferencing if you're going to like compare different dates. But this is just kind of like ballpark georeferencing. This is not like survey grade georeferencing in this course right here. Okay, so that's your processing. You're just getting that GeoTIFF file. Let's see if I can show you what a GeoTIFF file looks like.
Number 6. You need to pick the point.
Yeah, so these are like the files that you would get. It's just these are like a little bit zoomed in. These are like basically orthomosaic images. We do some stuff with coordinate systems in here. Okay, so that's processing. You literally just upload your images. We're not worrying about coordinate systems right now and all the other things that can get complicated if you go really advanced. But if you put images in and there's enough of them and there's enough overlap and it's consistent, you should get a nice map that you can use in different types of software. All right, so that is the processing. Now, I do want to show you something cool with analyzing. So there's some different reports you can do. So with analyzing, let me just go back here and show you. One of the things I think is neat is this is a little bit more complicated for like beginners. You can do something as simple as just getting some like area measurements. Like I think we were measuring retention ponds. We pretended like, hey, is this area measurements?
In Maps Made Easy, so you can try that if you like, and you can read more info that they have on it. But for our not, you know,
yeah, it's of a plot.
Delete that.
I think I'm just showing you a simple example.
Drag it.
Oh, here's an area measurement. So we just said, hey, pretend that somebody asked you to get all the different surface area of the retention ponds.
Fix the previous one. I click on that.
In Google Earth, we're doing this. We're building a polygon and doing some math. You look at sort of the surface area, the different area of all the different retention ponds. And we do a thing where we identify the coordinates of all the dumpsters. Like let's say they want to keep an inventory of all the dumpsters on site. We show you how you can do this in Google Earth. So this is like a basic thing you would do. You can do the same measurements in like Maps Made Easy. Google Earth gives you more options. But if you use another software like Pix4D, Drone Deploy, they've got tons of crazy options. Sort of that like cut fill report thing I showed you at the beginning. That's more enterprise software. That's like a Propeller. That's really nice. But something you can do in here that I think is really interesting. So we have our map. We did one of the example projects we do a housing community that's being built. And then we were actually able to go in to the county property appraiser's website and download something called a shape file, which is like geo-referenced lines of where all the lot lines are. And we took all the lots. Like this, here is right? Kind of common area. So these weren't even built yet. This is just according to the property appraiser website where all the plots of land are. But we downloaded that and we then pulled that into our map in Google Earth. And since everything is geo-referenced, as in it is pinned to a specific point on the Earth, and we're not going for like centimeter level accuracy. We're just ballparking it for this, right? We're not surveyors doing this. We're just doing this. The purpose of this report was to get like a progress update by lot. But the problem is if you're looking at this, you don't know which lot is which. But if you overlay that county shapefile data on there, boom, look at this. Now you can see pretty clearly which lot and which house is being built on which lot. And if you click on them, this data is all built in here. See if I can give you an example of, yeah, it's like data is built in here, and I can see this is lot number 14. And we can say, hey, the foundation is laid and the walls are going up. So just a cool way you can bring in different types of data and overlay it against the maps that you have created in like a cool and interesting way. And then finally, the last project we did, just to show you the way we analyzed it, this was actually an actual project that I did for a Chick-fil-A in my town. They were looking at different scenarios for a third lane of drive-through, and they're trying to figure out if they were going to bring it in off the street, if they were going to expand this. They had a couple scenarios. And so like, hey, can you just map it out? We're not getting an official survey. We just want you to map it out to see what it might look like from the air if we did this. So we mapped out 3 different scenarios for them and did some really like rough measurements. Again, this was not a survey, nothing like that. We were literally just drawing lines to be like, hey, look, here's approximately where you would fit things. Here's what it would look like, some parking lot lines, and some different ballpark measurements. And the funny part is they actually ended up doing this. So you see, they were thinking about blowing out these medians and putting parking spaces in here. And they actually did that. And then they actually did, but they didn't take it off like that here. So we talk about if you're going to put into a report for someone, what you could do. So they actually, see if I can show you what they did. Nope, they didn't go with that one. Sorry, internet's kind of slow. They did this. All right. So they blew this lane out and they widened this all the way around. And they created like a third drive-through lane without coming off of any of the other sides of the street. So they were assessing this to be like, hey, what should we do? And then, of course, once they decided, I think we're going to go this route, they got engineers and surveyors involved and actually did it the right way. But they wanted to have just sort of an initial outlook of what these options might look like. So I thought it was pretty cool. And in an example that we go through in here together in that drone mapping and modeling fundamentals course. So that is like the analyze phase. Okay. Oh, sorry. Could you hear the video that I was playing? My bad. Anyways, so that's the analyze phase. So PAPA's plan, acquire, process, and analyze. And that is mapping for you in a nutshell, basically. All right. Let's get back. I want to hit a couple more things. And you guys are asking questions about jobs. And it's almost 9 o'clock. So let me do this real quick. Because if people are running late, but they wanted that like discount deal, I'm just going to share that real quick. And then I'll get into the job thing. Let me share my presentation here. Okay. Plan, fly, capture, process, analyze. I'm going to come back to this. 3 most lucrative mapping. I'm just going to go up. All right. So I want to show you real quick. So the course I was just going through, obviously we sell that normally. If you're excited about like mapping and you want to do it, we'll show you a couple people from the course. And actually this might help people who are looking for getting clients too. So it's going to show you this guy. I don't know if Matt Nugent's in here. Last time I showed this, he was in the chat, which I thought was really funny. But this is Matt Nugent. I just thought this was the funniest story. So I was looking back at our testimonials that we had collected in December 15th, 2022. Yes, we'll have a discount. December 15th, 2022, Matt left this testimonial. I thought, oh, that's really nice. Like, it's very informative. I had done some mapping and modeling, but this, I was minimal information. After taking this course, I now understand how a proper net map needs to be captured. And he was just saying some nice things there. 2022. So we're talking, this is almost 3 years ago at this point. Then I interviewed him earlier this year, and I posted this. He was on our Drone to 1K podcast, and I didn't even put it together. He had told me I'd taken your mapping course, but he works for a police department. He started doing mapping jobs on the side, and I want to say his average. Oh yeah, he was generating $5,000 a month on the side doing mapping work. And I said, what was your best month ever? And he said, well, it's not normal, it's not typical, but I did make $20,000 last month doing mapping. I was like, no way, dude. So I just thought this was a really cool story. Obviously, I'm leading with this one first because this is like one of the bigger ones. I thought this was like super interesting and a great example of Matt he works a lot, right? Full-time job, doing this on the side, working very, very hard, getting after it. So, but I thought really cool success story to feature there. This one was a testimonial from just a couple of days ago. So I thought it was cool. It's like, hey, why Learned a lot from the course. I saw this come in. Someone bought a Matrice 4. Very great, Amanda. Another one that came in recently from Brett Jensen. I recognize Brett, but he said, especially pre-chat, we took technical concept, made them easy to understand, even for someone starting off. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. Solid investment for any drone pilot. I think you guys can see through what I'm doing here. I'm trying to butter you up so you know how good the course is. But these are real testimonials. All right. Drone mapping modeling. I would highly recommend this course for anyone who's starting out in the drone mapping industry. Instruction is clear, easy to understand. You have those mock projects that I showed you. Russell Burns, he was nice enough to put his picture in there. Step-by-step videos made it simple. Confident that I can take on mapping jobs. Harry Harris, want to highly recommend the mapping course. I'm not going to read this all to you. Another one, Brian Frazia, found the course to be easy to follow and informative. He even included a map he made. I thought that was really cool. Right. And then this is like a bunch of other testimonials. I actually counted up. So we've had over 1,400 students take our drone mapping modeling fundamentals course. I'm really bad about asking people for testimonials or reminding them. So far we've only gotten 65 testimonials or like ratings on there, but I added up the ratings right before this course. We had 63 5 stars, 2 4 stars. I'm not exactly sure why they said nice things and then left 4 stars. That's okay. But 0, 3, 2, or 1 stars. And I just added them up. So that's an average of 4.97. So people like the course. It's good. It seems to get results for people. So yeah, that's it. Let me give you the code, let me give you the jazz real quick. So if you want it, and then we'll go back to the getting business. Okay. So normally drone mapping and modeling and fundamentals is $3.99. I did want to tell you about Root too. So Root is great. He helps teaching it. He started doing mapping probably 10 years ago and was getting, a couple $100 jobs here and there. Root has done so well in his mapping and career. He works with a survey firm right now. I just texted him right before. I was like, hey, Root, can you give me some examples to share with the group? I'm trying to inspire people to show them what's possible. He's like, yeah, I did several normal jobs with the survey firm. They were $8,000 each. And the last job I did was the biggest job that I've ever done for them. It was, I'm literally going to pull up my text message. Hold on. He said it was, there were a few 8K jobs, mostly land and field survey, mostly agricultural land converting into housing developments. The largest job I did for the survey firm was $35,000. It was a 1,100 acre survey, and I delivered a bare earth model and did feature extraction. So again, that's beyond the fundamental stuff we're talking about here. But if you continue with this and you learn this skill set, it is definitely in demand at a very high level. The people who don't know what they're doing with it don't get the jobs, but the people who are skilled with it and they really know what they're doing, they are in very high demand because they're harder to find. All right. So anyways, normally this course is $3.99. You can make that back in literally one job, low paying job. A couple other resources we have. There's a mini course, how to take progression shots. This is taught by Michael Lilly. This is specifically for construction, progression, orthomosaics, and then landing construction clients. So this is how Root started off. And he taught a little mini course on what he did to land construction clients. All right. Normally, if you bought these separately, which people buy them separately all the time, it would be $597. Your deal, $150 off of drone mapping and modeling fundamentals. And then we're going to give you the 2 mini courses for free. But the mini courses for free is only for tonight for the people on the webinar. I always do a special webinar deal. We'll send some emails out tomorrow through Friday for still $150 off if you want to wait or think about it or whatever. But if you want the extra 2 mini courses for free, that's only till tonight at midnight. And what you're going to need to do is go to mappingdeal.com. Mapping deal. I normally write it on here, but I can't write. That should bring you right to the checkout link for $249. And we'll add that to your account. Okay. So if that's something that you want to do, I think it's a great course. Me and Root teach it together. I have a lot of conviction to say that I think mapping is the future of drones, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The more I talk to people, the more demand I see. I don't know if you guys know Dusty Jolly, our community manager for Drone Launch Connect. He is now working full time. He still does side work for us, but he's working full time for $1 billion company that does construction, golf course construction, and they fly him on a private jet to go do mapping work, with his drones. I was talking to him and he's like, hey man, I'm kind of busy. Can we move this meeting? They're going to send us back to Arkansas, but the jet is in Wyoming or something. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, oh, the jet was somewhere else. So they chartered us a jet to from wherever we were back to Arkansas. I'm like, what life are you living, dude? So I'm not saying that if you learn how to do this, you're going to be chartered around on private jets. However, that company is willing to invest that much in their drone team to get them out to these sites and collect that data. So I just seeing it being more and more. It's building up more and more. All right. So mappingdeal.com. If that doesn't work, you can just go to our drone mapping and modeling fundamentals course on dronelaunchacademy.com. The promo code is ATL. I think Audrey is ATL 150 for 150 off because I'm in Atlanta right now. I just thought that'd be funny to do. All right. All right. So anyways, that's the deal. If you want to get it, all right. Dive in, and that's your bonuses. Okay. Yeah. ATL 150. All right. That's it. So I will leave that up. If you forget what it is, and again, until midnight tonight, again, I normally write it down, but I would encourage you, if you're thinking about it, just literally write down mappingdeal.com on like a napkin or your phone or something. That way you have it. So, I don't know, you go talk to your wife later, or you just want to ponder it. And then at 11:30, you're like, you know what, I'm going to do it. You have it there. If not, I'm not here to pressure you into anything. This is just for people who really who like this stuff and want to learn it and do it. Okay. With that said, let me go back a bit in the presentation to what we were talking about. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. Here are the 3 most lucrative mapping niches. And when I say most lucrative, I mean here's sort of the progression I would take if you were getting into it and you wanted to make the most money. So I'm just going to skip to the end. Working with surveyors and engineers to do aerial data collection and analysis, that makes the most money. This is what Root's doing right now. This is what Dusty's doing right now. These are the people making really good money. There was actually, let me see if I can find this. It was on LinkedIn. Hold on. It was on LinkedIn the other day, and I thought it was one of the best examples of what's. I didn't even know this guy, and he posted something that I was like, dang, that is so. Oh yeah, there it is. Come on. He said, oh, I'm not gonna be able to find it, am I? All right. He made a comment, and he said something about, we have a hard time finding people to do drone work because all the good ones, as soon as you find them, they're always booked out months in advance, and we need the drone work done now, but they're so busy because they're so good. The good ones are hard to find, and they're in a lot of demand. He's like, because it was someone talking about, oh, the market is so saturated. And the guy was like, yeah, the market is saturated with people who don't know what they're doing. They think they can just throw their drone up, hit some buttons, and then give you something that's good. But you have to learn this stuff and learn how to make it accurate and what you're doing, so that when you're working with people, they can trust what you're doing, right? So that is getting to this stage, right? This is where you want to end up. But I'll go back one. So this is where you can earn really good money. I mean, I think Root charges $150 an hour all day long, and he's able to get it. Okay. If you go back one, this can also be complicated. I have another person I know who does a lot of bridge inspections, and that actually is pretty complicated because of just all the different geometry of it. But I know often companies will work with pilots to do we'll say power line inspections, or cell tower, 3D models of cell towers. And they're sort of just doing the data collection process, flying the mission. So it's more complicated than your basic orthomosaic image type work. But if let's say you're doing a roof inspection, this is not incredibly complicated. And I think it's less complicated because it doesn't require as much knowledge of coordinate systems, surveying, geodesy, all that stuff. If you incorporate some of that stuff, it can get a little bit better, but you can do this without having a bunch of survey gear. You know what I mean? So, but also in demand, people do this kind of stuff all the time. Cell tower inspections. Root used to go all over the country doing cell tower inspections and power line inspections because there's just so much infrastructure to try to capture and see the condition of. that, it keeps people pretty busy. All right. And then where I would start is construction sites. Now you can stay in construction sites, right? Like they have a lot of all the stuff I was talking about before with like Nate Howard do with that construction company. They're doing all this grading work. They're highly paid professionals using $50,000 drones to get this really accurate information about a construction site. So like you can make money doing that. But when you start, you can just do a simple orthomosaic image of that. So that's just getting those photos, those straight down shots to create one big sort of like master map and do like I talked about, like you're finding how many dumpsters are on the site, or you're figuring out where the progress is with certain things. Hey, is this wall built yet? A lot of times, big construction projects have stakeholders that are in different parts of the country. There's a lot of just coordination that happens between all the subcontractors and the different tradesmen that are coming in and out. And where are we with the schedule? There's just so much to keep track of that I know a lot of times they'll fly these orthomosaic maps, sometimes daily, if not weekly, and they'll pin them up in the trailer. And then they have all their crews come together and say, all right, here's what's going on today. I need you to move this stuff out of the way. It just gives them really accurate, up-to-date picture of what's happening. So that doesn't require as much technical skill with all the survey control and any of that stuff. So it doesn't pay quite as high, but it is a good entry point for you to get in. And it is something that is in demand. Like even, again, Nate Howard, who does really complicated stuff, he's like, yeah, they still use it just for general site planning as well. So they can use this for many different purposes. So, and this is where Root started doing a lot of his stuff. So these are sort of the three areas I would go to. All right. So with those areas, and I think I've already gone through all this stuff, I'm just going to leave this on the screen while we do more Q&A. Okay. So you guys are asking me about clients, how to go out there and get clients. Let me look at the questions first here. How can mapping modeling be help to real estate agents or sellers of a residence or a commercial building? Yeah, if you have a lot of land, big land, that's helpful. Like my sister bought a couple 100 acres in Texas. She's much wealthier than I am. She's a doctor and her husband's a doctor. But they didn't even know half of what they were buying. The land was so big, like they could go walk the land, but it was hard to really get an idea of what it was. And the only other thing they had was satellite imagery, right? So if that real estate agent or broker or whatever, and I even told her, sure, let me come out there with my drone. I mean, I'm in Florida, so it's a little bit of a hard drive, but she was like, oh, that would be awesome, because they were trying to plan and think, what could we do with it? We would want to build some stuff here. Maybe we turn this into like a horse area. They're trying to plan out in their mind with it. And it's hard when they don't have a good accurate picture of what the land looks like in different areas as they're thinking about buying it. So especially like ranches, large plots of land, things like that. If you fly a big orthomosaic image or map, then those clients can then start to see, oh, okay, here's what that looks like, or here's the condition, or oh, that's actually pretty shrubby over there, or oh, here's the size of this pond is actually X number of acres, whatever it is. And so if you have that, it's just planning, just like construction company would plan, a purchaser of a property wants to plan. But I really only see that being helpful in like those large areas or maybe some roof inspection stuff. But I think if you're doing that, you don't necessarily need like a 3D model per se. Like you could probably just get some images of the roof if it's just a small residential roof. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that was sort of, my thoughts. Let's see, Maps Made Easy entry level. Yeah, Maps Made Easy. Yeah, that's what we use to teach in the course. We use it because it's like a pay-as-you-go process, So if you don't do a lot, you don't have to it doesn't cost money. Okay, specific drones to use. Yes. Try to use what you have if you have something. This is what you want to go, real quick. I'm going to go back over to DroneLink. I'm going to show you this, dronelink.com. Supported drones. So I'm going to switch over here. Share. Okay. So if you go to DroneLink, you go to supported drones, it'll show you which drones you can use with DroneLink. Now you want to make sure you click on this little icon here, and it takes you here. It'll tell you there's no iOS support. You'll have to use an Android device. supported. So maybe this works on the DJI RC in controller. So you just got to be careful about that, but it does give you more options. I usually tell people to start with like a Mini 3 or Mini 3 Pro because it's cheaper. If you have like a Mini 2, those typically will work. They're just older. If you even go back here, like a DJI Air 2, I have an Air 2S and it works great with it. So if you have any of these older drones, like Mavic 2 Pro, like a DJI Mini, that's great. Like even my friend who makes tons of money doing drone work, it's like, oh, they wanted a small parking lot done. He's like, nah, I'll just use the DJI Mini. I actually still have a DJI Spark. So if you have one of the older drones, these actually can still work pretty well. Phantom 4 is really good. Mini 2 is very good, but they're a little bit harder to find. These are the ones that are more popular these days. Mini 4 Pro, Mini 3 Pro, Mini 3. You can get these for roughly $500, I want to say. Or at least the Mini 3 you could, but you have to have some sort of either the smart controller or Android device. If you want to get wild, I mean, I've got a DJI Matrice 4. That thing is awesome, but you don't need DroneLink. This has its own DJI Pilot app, but I think these things are like $6,000 to $8,000 now. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend starting off with this for your first drone. I would pick like Mini 3, Mini 2, Mini 4, something you could find in there. That's what I would start with, because you can. Those are just nice drones in general. You can take nice pictures with them and do those types of things. Pretty versatile. All right. What software do I need to fly or analyze that my client cannot get from Google already? I don't know if you mean like Google Earth Pro. Like you can take your GeoTIFF file and you can throw it in Google Earth Pro. The problem is you can't really zoom in to get super detail in Google Earth Pro. And then the annotation details aren't as good. Like if you wanted to mark certain things, or if you wanted to like measure areas or volumes, that's where it gets a little less, good. There are so many different software programs out there that can do that kind of stuff. There's like Pix4D Survey. There is Virtual Surveyor. There's Drone Deploy. You can throw stuff in there. Pix4D Cloud has a pretty good like tool that you can use where your client can view it and you guys can annotate on stuff together. If you're strictly doing 3D models, there's a software called Nira, N-I-R-A, that's very, very good. And it's very fast. You can load like super complex 3D models in there, and it is like seamless fast because it's essentially just a video feed of the model, and you can annotate stuff and mark it all up, and it's georeference and all that. So it's pretty good. So I don't know if that would answer your question or not, but let's see. Can you use a Phantom 4 Pro V2? Oh, heck yeah. That's one of the best mapping drones, honestly. It's got a 1-inch sensor, 20 megapixel camera. I think they started locking down the new drones because everybody's using Phantom 4s. I think a couple professional companies I know still use Phantom 4 Pro. So yeah, I would definitely do that. All right. I'm gonna go to the bottom of the questions because I feel like I'm gonna get behind. I'm gonna start from fresh. If you have a question, ask it fresh because I'm gonna go to the bottom. Is Gaussian splatting useful to clients? It's useful for displaying things. I believe you should follow Ted Strasamiri on LinkedIn. He is like the man for this stuff. I mean, there's a couple other people too, like Michael Gula, I think. I don't know Michael, but I know Ted pretty well. He knows about this. But I think they're integrating some LiDAR stuff in there now. So I think that can get useful pretty soon. But that's definitely going to getting more and more popular. So, but that's not photogrammetry necessarily. So, can you guys still hear me? One of my headphones died. Hopefully you can hear me in the other one. All right, let me keep looking back here. What are the most common mistakes new pilots make when starting mapping work, and how do I avoid them? Okay, do not, I would say, don't overpromise things to people. Don't be like, oh, I can get it. I'm super accurate, blah, blah, blah. I think a common mistake they make is not learning about how to do accuracy, coordinate systems, and ground control if they're trying to like work with surveyors. So once you learn how to do the basics of photogrammetry and mapping, next thing you want to do is learn about ground control, because that's like like surveyors or engineers, and a lot of times they're like, I'm a drone pilot. They're just be like, oh, okay. Because so many people say they're drone pilots, but if you're a drone pilot, you actually know how to do these things that are like speaking their language, they'll respect you more. And they're like, oh, this person's legit, like, the roots of the world. So they don't take the time to learn about coordinate systems and ground control and things like that after they get the fundamentals down. And second, I would say this is not new. This is not specific to mapping, but most people are doing any type of business. I have just found in any business that you do, no matter what it is always harder than you think. You think like, oh, I'm going to get this drone, I'm going to do this, and people are going to buy it from me. I mean, I don't care if you're doing drone stuff or if you're doing bookkeeping or if you're doing a window washing service or whatever it is. It's all difficult because if there's money to be made, that means there's people there competing with you, and there'll be people that are better than you. And so you have to learn how to communicate. You have to learn how to have people skills. You have to learn how to sell yourself and get attention and all those things. And that's difficult, especially if you got other stuff going on. So I think a lot of people, they start down that road and then they see how difficult or just how much, I don't know, dedication or time it takes to really stick with it and be successful. And they get discouraged and they just sort of give up. So, but the people that I have known that stuck with it, like I know people who have stuck with drones for 10 years, and both of them now make literally just hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. And I'm not saying that to be like, you're going to do that. I hope you do that. But they've both been doing businesses for like 5, 8 years, So if you are going to be like, hey, I can stick with this for 5 years, then I'm confident that you could do it and do well. Just to be very persistent with yourself, like very just gritty. Like I'm not going to give up. You continually learn. When you get afraid to go talk to someone because you think you're going to look stupid, just go and be humble and say, hey, listen, I may not be the best at may not know everything, but I'm going to do a good job, the best job I can do for you. Here's what I can provide. And if they're like, no, I don't need that, instead of being like, they said no, see, this doesn't work. Learn. Okay. Oh, that's fine. Well, what do you need? What would be helpful? Like learn what people want. And then you go out and you find that. Like that's the whole point of business. You learn from your customer or potential customer, then you go back, you work on your product or your service, learn how to do it, figure it out, and then go back to them and give them what they want. Nate Howard, who works for Kiewit, he just said, yeah, we've had people walk onto our job sites before, walk into trailers, asking if they can do stuff. And we're like, well, we're not really hiring contractors right now, but we do need full-time people. Do you want a job? And he said, we've just like hired people that have walked in on the trailer. I don't think it was drone work. I think it was more like survey crew work, but either way. So I think people like get too discouraged too quickly and they kind of chicken out. So that's more of like a business, self-discipline personality issue. And then on the knowledge end, they don't go deep enough into some of the technical expertise in order to be respected. And I think you can become imposter syndrome, but that stuff can be learned, right? There's books. I mean, there's courses we teach, obviously, but if you don't want to take our courses, you can go buy books on this stuff. I mean, any way you can self-educate, go out there, talk to people on LinkedIn, listen to podcasts, right? You got to just be a lifelong learner if you want to do it. So sorry going a little mini rant, but yeah, that's my experience. All right. Mavic 3 Pro for mapping. No, that one is just basically a cinematography camera. I wish it was, but I haven't seen a way to do it yet. I think some people try to like hack it a little bit, but it's never going to be what you want it to be. Like you're never going to be able to program it to do specific overlaps and all that stuff. So that is a cinematography drone. So we load profiles. Oh, sorry. I think you guys already know what the deal is, but I'll just go back up here in case you forget. All right. So we load profiles into Google Earth Pro, and that's how we analyze, add more data overlays. That you can. That's just using that as an example, right? I use that in our fundamentals course because I know that a lot of people taking fundamentals course are not already making a bunch of money from drone mapping. So we try to keep the course as budget friendly as possible because I don't want you to have to buy the course and then buy a bunch of expensive software, right? They're going to be like, it's just too much. So since Google Earth is free and it's pretty regularly used by engineers and surveyors and all those folks, it's a good tool to learn how to use anyway. So that's why we use it. So we analyze some data in there by we took some measurements there for the first example. We dropped some pins and got some coordinates. We worked with some KMZ files or KML files in there. Let's see what some other stuff we did in there. Yeah, then we took the GIS data. Now, not every town is going to openly give you their geospatial data. Mine just happened to, but it's just an example. Like, let's say you're working with a customer, they may have some, it's called like a DXF file, which is like some type of CAD file, and we talk about the different types of like geospatial files and things like that in the course, so you can be familiar with what types you might encounter. But a shape file is basically just like lines and stuff. So we teach you, hey, if you get a file like this, you can bring them together, because that's where you become useful. It's not just, hey, here's the picture. It's give me some information from this. And a lot of times the information that you need is when you can take two different sets of data, like the county lot lines over your current map, or, hey, here's the design of how this hill needs to be, and here's compared to where it is now. Right? That's the kind of stuff that is actually useful and helpful. So that's just one way to do it. But any other software that you're using, like Drone Deploy, Propeller, all these things allow you to bring in third-party like design files or multiple maps over time that you can compare how things are changing. Even Propeller has some really cool stuff. They have like hydrology reports, so you can get like, hey, here's where the earth is now, like here's where all the ground is now, and then you can simulate rainfall. Hey, if it rained for 3 hours at this rate, which parts would flood out first? And so that's I thought it was pretty cool. I have minimal drone training, some of the Mavic picture processing, but I'm a GIS analyst. Oh, familiar coordinate system GCPs. Still good. Yeah, so I would, because we don't really go over much of the coordinate systems GCP stuff in the fundamentals course. It's the fundamentals of really photogrammetry and using the drone to create 2D maps and models and integrating different types of data sources together. In our next advanced courses, we have things on Geodesy for drone surveying. That's taught by Dave Doyle. He's the former chief chief geodesist for the National Geodetic Survey, and GNSS and survey control. And then we go into like Root teaches one on land surveying, and then Nate Howard teaches one on construction and engineering. And the fifth one we're waiting on is Ted Strazimiri. He teaches one on like 3D modeling. So if you don't have much drone training, this would actually be good, because we don't really get into a whole lot of the GCP's coordinate system and stuff, but that will be helpful knowledge for you as you go into other things, knowing about like state plane coordinates and all that. All right, what have I not answered? Sorry. Bigger discount if we buy today's course you presented and the Real Estate Pro course, please. Sure, Prince. Email me, david@dronelaunchacademy.com. I guess let's do this. If you buy this deal, I'll give you like a bigger deal on the real estate, because this one's easy because it's already set up for us in the system. And then we'll give you a deal on the Real Estate Pro course too. Rami, talking about Rami Tamimi, he's great. He's a very smart surveyor. Yeah, if you want to learn survey stuff, Rami's great for that. They can map, but they lack the experience of six. I don't know. You're answering somebody else. All right. Questions. How do you get around the surveyor definition? I'm here in Las Vegas and I've spoken with professional land surveyors, and they said even basic mapping can get you in trouble. Yeah, it depends on your state. I would go look at the state definitions, because you do want to be careful. You'll notice that in that third category that I said, where I was like, here's where you make the most money. Typically, you're working like with a surveyor. So you're going to be like going out there and you're going to be like collecting the data and processing the data and getting the information that they're using for their final products. But they're the ones who have the license to put the stamp on the paper and hand it over to the end client. North Carolina, I think, is the most strict about saying like, hey, even if you take a picture and you put like one dot on it, now that's a survey product. I personally think that's like a little bit overkill. But look in your, like, so usually every state has like like some labor or professional board of regulation, something like that. So Google the, professional business or professional board of regulation for your state, definition of a surveyor. I had to help my friend research this one time because he got in a little bit of trouble. You just can't make claims. Most of it is like you attesting to boundaries. You definitely can't say like, hey, here's your property boundaries. That's a definite no-no. And then making representations about like specific contours of like, hey, here's the exact elevations of these certain things, because that does get pretty advanced with different methods of GNSS receivers, and people are going to then rely on these reports for like doing construction, and that's not good. So I've seen that most people are usually good with either one of two things: being very clear, hey, I'm not a surveyor. This is not an official survey. This is not to be used for any construction stuff. This is not even me giving you like official measurements, right? This is just, we're ballparking. I'm just giving you some general idea, like disclaimer it to death. You could do that depending on how, safe you want to be. For instance, like the Chick-fil-A thing, right? Like in no world did they think that was a survey. They were just like, hey, what would it look like if we drew these lines out here so we can just picture what this would look like in our head? They weren't about to go start ripping up concrete because I gave them a Word document with pictures in it. You know what I'm saying? They got surveyors and engineers to go do that stuff. But if you get good, you can go work with surveyors. Like literally Roots, the company that Roots working for, they like offered for him to be a partner in the survey firm because he was helping them so much with their survey jobs by using drones. So I think there's a hunger out there for some surveyors to partner with qualified, competent drone operators who know this stuff and can help them. They're used to a lot of just rando drone operator going and be like, hey, let me come in there and you teach me everything. They don't really have time to do that. They're busy, right? You got to learn it and you got to come over there and be an asset. So that's what I would say about that. Yeah, be careful. I would look up the definitions to make sure you're not getting yourself in any hot water there. Whew, sorry for all the talking. DroneLink doesn't support the EXO Blackhawk 3. I don't think much does. Alternatives, I mean, I think I gave you the giant list of the DroneLink supported drones, so I would just look through there. And I think I might have already answered that question with the Mini 3 comment. All right. Carl, what's up, man? Hope you're doing well out there. All right. Carl, I mentioned this last time. Carl sent me a very nice care package from Hawaii. Bunch of stuff in there. It was just super thoughtful, super nice. Bunch of macadamia nut stuff, chocolates. I'm like, man, super thoughtful. All right. What link lists the drone platforms you showed on the screen? Did not see the DJI 3S. Correct, because it's not on there. If you go to just DroneLink's website, dronelink.com, it's on their homepage. It says supported drones. You just click on that. Do you have any experience or knowledge of NDAA compliant drones for mapping, doing government work, and we can't really use DJI drones? Yep, that is a bummer. I've talked to a couple manufacturers. I think Whisper Systems is one. They do mapping. There are a few others out there. I believe that Wingtra is NDAA compliant, or maybe they're just Blue List. I'm going to get these mixed up, honestly. I don't want to speak out of turn. I probably have to do more research before doing that on you or getting back to you on that. But yeah, government is a little bit stingy about those types of things. I don't even want to mention Skydio. They're good for some things, but I think there are probably going to be some better options out there. Like Inspired Flight Systems does some stuff. I'm forgetting some, but they're out there. They're just not quite as cohesive and nice to use, in my opinion, as DJI software, just the total package integration. But you can still get good results from it. All right, let me look for questions here. You expressed that you provide survey grade, survey accurate mapping. Are you ensure that you able? I don't know if that's a question or a comment. Looks like it's a comment. Sorry to repeat and answer your question. I'm traveling while tuned in, and my connection is choppy. All good. Air 3S, nope. Mavic 4 Pro, nope. Sorry. Those are both cinematography drones. DJI really tried to split like their enterprise mapping stuff and their cinematography stuff. And both the Air 3S and the Mavic 4 Pro are on the cinematography side. But before I say that too much, let me just double check. The Air 3S, I don't think is on here. But the Air 2S. No, they don't. No Air 3S, but they have the Mini 3, Mini 4 Pro, and the Mini 3 Pro. and the DJI Air 2S. All right. What else we got? Are you just messing with me, or did you not hear my story earlier? The short answer is my wife accidentally hit me in the face with a vacuum cleaner. The edge of a shop vac, not an actual vacuum cleaner, but like the plastic piece that attaches to the hose. She was trying to pull the hose up like this, and it just went wham right in my eye. Very thoughtful. Can you tell us about a certificate? What can we expect? We have like official certificates for our advanced mapping and modeling stuff. I think I'm going to start doing one for this too, that you can like add to your LinkedIn for the fundamentals course. So yeah, I'll do that. We should implement that. But otherwise, I think we've just been giving people like course completion certificates when they're done with it. I mean, the main thing you want is the knowledge from it, but I do understand that it's nice to have like something you can show. Hey, I finished this course. I've got, some proof of it. Missed the beginning. No worries. Do you have any info on the Hype DJI ban and how it will affect you? Okay, so if you already own a DJI drone, you're good. This is only going to affect new DJI drone sales in the United States. And honestly, they basically pulled out mostly from selling drones into the United States anyways at this point. But it would now make it to where the FCC would not grant them new spectrum licenses to use the radio frequencies. So unless DJI wanted to start flying all fiber optic drones like they're doing in Russia, they could do that because they wouldn't be using any spectrum frequency, but I don't think that's going to be happening. But yeah, I mean, I wish I had some good news for you. I think it'll take a little while, but I imagine, they're coming up with a lot of new manufacturing incentives in the United States for people to create drones. So I hope somebody steps up and creates an awesome drone that's more at the prosumer level. Right now, everybody's creating drones for military, like B2B government stuff. And that's mostly it in the US because that's where all these companies are funded by venture capital firms. And the venture capital firms are like, we want our returns. And so they look for, hey, where can we make the most money per customer? And that's in the government and B2B, big infrastructure, big businesses, right? If they're going to sell to consumers, they got to sell super high volume because the margins are lower. It's harder to manufacture. That's why China was so good at it because they could pump out tons of them and they could like get huge market share and it was worth it and made a lot of money. But it's harder to do with the US, everything sourced in the US and made in the US. So I don't know. We'll see how that shakes out. I wish I had a better answer, but that's sort of my current take. Just bought the 2 quarts. Oh, I'm sorry. Real quick, you have immediate access to that one. What we do is at midnight, we got to see everybody who purchases before midnight Eastern time. And then tomorrow morning, we can go in and we'll add those 2 mini courses. We're just going to do it manually based on who signed up before midnight. Because the promo code was to purchase this one. And then we'll go back in there and we'll add those in. So be patient. It'll get added to your course platform at some point tomorrow. But I appreciate you signing up for the course. Lifelong learner. What's up, Chad? Russ, great show. Stoked I joined. Great insight. Hey, thanks, Russ. Appreciate it. What about Autel products? I haven't heard about Autel products getting messed up. I don't know if they're the ones going to be on a covered list too, but they do have some mapping, some drones you can use for mapping. I believe they have their own mapping app. I personally have not used a lot of Autel. I've mostly done like Wingtra and DJI and some other ones. But I believe they do have their own mapping software. So you could probably just Google it, honestly. I'd like software to actually control the drone, but I believe you can do that with it. Yeah, I think that the law is going to come and go. I don't think anybody's going to do any of that security assessment. Are you kidding me? Federal government doing like something that says it's optional. I love how they wrote that law. It says, oh, hey, any of these entities, and I used to work for the FBI. I'm like, oh, I know how this works. Hey, any of these entities take it upon themselves to do this review, this security review, and let us know if it's not good. But if none of you decide to do the security review, we'll just automatically put it on the FCC's covered list. Like nobody's going to be like, you know what? Let me go out of my way to do this completely optional thing. The only way someone's doing that is if they get a direct like requirement. Hey, you have to do this by the state because they got other stuff going on, other things they're worried about. So if it's optional, they're not going to do it. So December is going to come and go. no one's going to have touched it, and then it's going to go on the covered list unless they write another law to change it. So this kind of sucks. Is the DJI Inspire 1 too old to use? Good question. I don't think so. I mean, it's on DroneLink's list. Those cameras are pretty good. So if you got one and it still works all right, I say go for it. It'd be great. Butch, thanks again for the intro to the webinar. I appreciate your work. I appreciate that. I should buy a course soon. Advanced mapping course soon too. Cool. Mavic 3 Pro won't work. No, and if you're gonna do the advanced mapping course, you probably need like you're gonna get into like nicer drones. So that's where people are starting to use like the Matrice 4 and those drones that are like, 5K and up, because you'll probably need like nicer GPS or GNSS stuff, unless you're working with survey crews that have that. Or you can always rent them. I think you can rent a Matrice 4 for like $200 or $300 a day. So, if you had a specific job you needed it for, you could rent one. No, Mavic 3 Pro, fun drone to fly around, but not great for mapping. Is there a company offering franchise for roof inspections? Oh, there is a company offering franchise for roof inspections with drones. Is that legit? I'd be wary if anybody was selling any drone service business franchise, just because what I always tell people is drone service businesses are really just another type of business that uses a drone typically. So either you're like a video production company and you use drones, or you are like a surveyor support area, data company, and you use drones, because you also will use like ground control and other software. Like drones always just a piece of something else. So I would be wary of that. If it's a franchising thing that's just drones, I would dig deep to make sure they got some other success stories in there. I think you can start a drone business and do a little bit of everything as like side hustle type stuff. But typically the people that I know that go full time, they pick an area like commercial roof inspections, and then they go into like getting up on the roof, taking core samples, getting certified in other roofing stuff. They go deep in whatever area they're in beyond just I'm flying the drone. You know what I'm saying? Can you use Litchi for mapping? Not in the way we're talking about. You can automate like waypoints and have it say like, I think you can say like take pictures every 2 seconds or something like that. You could. I think I've seen it where you can do it, but it is like really cumbersome. That'd be like saying, can you walk from Tennessee to New York? Like, yeah, you could, but you should probably just fly or take a car. You know what I mean? All right. Preference benefits in computer running Mac or PC for processing images. Oh gosh, there are almost no software applications for Mac for photogrammetry. They're like all PC. So anything you're running local on your machine, Pix4D Mapper, Pix4D Survey, Virtual Surveyor, WebODM, any of those, they're all Windows based, or even the DJI one. I don't know why I'm blanking on it. Oh gosh, what's the DJI photogrammetry software? It comes with the Mavic 4 or the Matrice 4. Terra, DJI Terra. That's on your PC. So they're all PC based, and you have to have a really good graphics card too. So not a whole lot for Mac. I think Pix4D might have one for Mac now, but overwhelmingly it's PC. I think I answered the Autel question already. All right, cool. Autel Evo 2 version 3 with RTK. Boom. All right. Sounds great. Oh, it's on the list to be banned. Thanks, Chad. Pick us up just to slam us down. Never heard of Aqualine drones. Maybe I should have. I'll check them out. Yeah. Okay. Great. Hey, any drone. Oh, it's a drone that's affordable and good to use. Yeah, let's go ahead and let's ban it. Any info on the advanced mapping course? Yeah, if you go to our website, you go to courses, I think it's over like maybe on the enterprise section. You can go find out the information there. Want me to info, but will Part 108 for BVLOS affect mapping in any way? It's mostly on like inspections and deliveries, but I imagine you can map with it too. I think it'll impact a little bit of everything, probably beyond the scope of what we can get into here in the time we have left. But listen, I will say this. I hate to ever recommend competitor stuff, But Pilot Institute did an incredibly good and detailed video of the Part 108 BVLOS stuff. So kudos to Greg over there for doing that. So if you want to watch a good Part 108 video and what the impact is and what exactly how it works, I would just go watch that. And you know that I'm serious because they're like a direct competitor to most of what we do. So yeah, I would go check that out. Cool, no problem. Here, is it not on there? Hold on. It's not good that you can't find our courses. All right, I'm going to show you. All right, guys, here's the website. Enter, oh, that's that one. Oops. Individuals, courses, advanced drone mapping and modeling program. So here are the 4 courses that we have. So if you go to Geodesy for Drone Surveying, that's the one with Dave Doyle. We have these 4 courses right now. So you can buy them here, and there you can watch videos. Like this is the stuff we're doing, like the engineering stuff, remember comparing it to surveys. And then I don't know if these links work. Let me see, actually. Maybe we need to fix these links. Join the program now. Oh, guys. Enroll. Oh, maybe we turned it off. You know what? Because we did a big promo for it a while back. I might need to refresh those links. Well, thanks for calling me out on it. I think the other ones should still be good, though. Like if you go here, it's like drone surveying, enroll. Yeah, that one still works. Okay. So yeah, those are more expensive, obviously, because those are more of the advanced courses. And those actually count for survey and engineering credits. So if you're a surveyor or engineer, except for like New York, Florida, and a couple other states, you can count those as PDH, professional development hours, for your surveyor engineering license. Oh, WebODM's on Mac Mini? Okay, I stand corrected. Fantastic, good. Anzu Raptor, good drone, good for mapping. Might take, might can use NZ Robotics in Florida. Okay, sweet. Thanks, Chad. Yeah. Atom 2. I've never heard of that. What's my take on operating a drone light show company? Expensive to get going. I think each of those drones are like $1,500, and you need a lot of them for a good light show. And then, you know, I know UGCS. I mentioned them earlier. They make a I know there's other drone light show softwares out there, but I know they make one. And you got to have like RTK stuff. So I'd say it's expensive. I don't know how much they charge though, but I imagine not a whole lot of people in it because it's so expensive to do. But I would not be the person to talk to about that because I've never done a drone light show. But I do enjoy watching them. You are welcome. Thanks, Rudy. Hey, listen, I've seen you in the chat being helpful with other people too. So I appreciate you chiming in as I'm in here just talking about other stuff. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. All right, Prince. Sweet. Yeah, email me about the real estate course, then we'll get you hooked up. Would a DJI Avata work? No, I wish. Avata is an FPV drone. That's like the, racing drones. You need a drone, where the camera can point straight down. I brought my Mavic. Whenever I travel, I bring my Air 2S with me just because it can do everything. I wish they still made that drone. It's upstairs though, but you need a camera that can point straight down. DJI Avata is like a fixed, like mounted forward drone. It's like a racing drone or like, one that can do flips, FPV stuff. Fun, but not for mapping. Oh, Anzu. Oh, okay. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I've heard the guy that runs that company is like a great dude. I've never actually met him, but I should. I know we have a lot of mutual friends. All right, everybody. Well, hey, that's it. I appreciate you hanging out to the end. Thank you, everybody who jumped in the course tonight. We'll add those bonuses for you in the morning. Again, if you're still considering it, just write down mappingdeal.com and it'll be good. The link should expire at midnight. I think Audrey said it to expire at midnight. I could double check, but it's supposed to. But write down mappingdeal.com. It's $249 to get that plus the bonuses. And then if you want to start there, because you have to know all that knowledge before you go any further. But then, we have other resources and courses for really advanced stuff. I think it's like the most advanced. I look out there a lot. I don't think anybody has as like comprehensive and advanced mapping stuff as we do now with all that. But the best practice is literally just getting out there with your drone, trying it out, doing some. You're never going to learn more than actually getting out there and doing it. Like, you do need the head knowledge, but then you got to actually do it with your drone, and then talk to people in the industry. You'd be surprised how much you can learn just showing up to a conference like Geo Week, or go into a survey or association conferences. Just try to be friends with the people, and you can learn a lot. So worst somebody can tell you is no. If you call them up and say, hey, can I come just follow you around, they could be like, no. But you can figure out how to become valuable to them and learn from them. It's the best way to do it. So anyways, all right, thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.